To
We're already, it says live already.
good evening, everybody. Hello, Renee. Welcome to Betwixt the Shadows, number 13.
Lucky number 13.
13. We've come in 13 episodes in. That is crazy times, man. We're moving through this.
I have an interesting little numerology snippet of information about the number 13, if you're interested.
Sure. What's going on with 13?
13 actually was a Christian sort of number before it had the spooky connotation, and it was supposed to mean one God. So one was supposed to be just like one, and then the 3 was supposed to be God. So one God. So 13 really.
Yeah, that's cool. I know it was also used in a lot of Templar stuff. Probably it was also associated to the same thing, the lucky 13 because the 1 and the 3, and if you go into further in gematria, 13 is the number of God, where and I don't mean that from the Christian standpoint. It's just a perfect number magically, as is the multiplications of that number. 3, which means 6, which means 9, and as we know, 9 has its own connotation. And 666, 6 times 3 is 18, and 8 and 1 is 9. And it looks like Voodoo is smoking.
She has a little chew.
So what's going on? How's everybody doing in the first week of the new year? We're just coming in so strong and so heavy and so wonderfully, aren't we, here in the country? Yay.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well,
hence Baphomet. He's like, I don't know what's going on.
That's like everyone. Baphomet speaks for all of us right now.
Yeah.
I did notice, this will kind of segue into my astrology sort of spiel, but one of the astrologers that I follow pointed this out, Annabelle Gatt. She writes the horoscopes for Broadly. She had noticed that when the Capitol was stormed, because Mars just changed signs from Aries to Taurus, but when the Capitol was stormed, Mars was at like 29 degrees in Aries, and whenever you have something at 29 or 0 degrees Aries, it's considered like a critical degree. It's called an anaretic degree. So it's like a lot of the times like something big or explosive or like profound will happen. And I just think that it's interesting that happened right as that transition was happening, especially because Mars now being in Taurus is a lot of like, it's an earth sign. So it's very much about our bodies, and also like, like putting our bodies or putting force behind the things we feel passionate about. Did I say this last week? I didn't.
I don't remember it.
I said it in one of my classes, and so now I'm like, wait, did I say that? Like, did I say that here? I just don't want to repeat information. But since we do have Mars in Taurus, one thing that I will say that's really nice about that is people will feel like they're able to slow down. Mars is, our passion and our will and sort of like the moves that we make. So whenever it's in an earth sign, especially something like Taurus is happy to take its time. It's happy to chill, like to be chill and, slow down a little bit. So it's okay to like temper your pace, but it's also like a really sensual sort of placement. So, people are going to be wanting to be intimate and affectionate, especially because Venus just moved into Capricorn. So Mars, is almost like male sexuality, and Venus, female sexuality, are both an earth sign. So that could be, make for some really nice sensual alone time with either yourself or your partner. With Venus being in Capricorn, I will also say that sometimes it can be difficult to make love connections when Venus is in Capricorn, just because Capricorn has such strong walls and has such good boundaries. So it may be difficult to bring a relationship to the next level right now. Or you may need to realize, people may realize that they need some time they needed some time away from their partners. They've been spending too much time in like sort of a lovey zone, and so they're needing to set boundaries so that they can stay sort of more focused on their personal goals, especially like when it comes to career. You could also potentially find love in the workplace, I feel like, but no one's really like, not a lot of workplace interaction is happening right now. And Mercury is now in Aquarius, so if whenever Mercury is in an air sign, I feel like that does create a lot of chatty minds. So make sure that you are, grounding, meditating, taking deep breaths if you feel like you're getting the chatty brain too much. Psychic downloads, again, I've been talking about that because of where the energy has been going pretty much since the end of last year. So psychic downloads, again, with Mercury in Aquarius will be very, very common. So make sure you're writing down your thoughts, making sure you're writing down your brilliant moments, because you will forget them. And that's my astrology PSA.
Woohoo! That was cool. Cool. So, I don't know. Would you have questions coming up? Do you want to hit some questions out first?
Yeah, we have. So we only have 2 questions that were sent in advance, but hopefully our lovely audience members will send us questions. I do have my tarot cards here too, so I'm not against tarot questions. I'm at the shop. For those of you who don't recognize the background, I worked here today. Sal's downstairs, I'm upstairs. But for our questions, we had one come in that I think I even had messaged you about. This came in through our Instagram, I think like a week ago. And they said, I've been wanting to learn more on deities. Is there a book that you could recommend?
Yes, there are 2 books, and they're older now. One of them is here behind me, and I will grab it, and it has a counterpart that goes with it that I don't have here. But it's a very thorough book. Hello.
Oh.
This is The Witch's Goddess by Janet and Stuart Farrar. It's a wonderful book. It's filled with all different pantheons. It even has I'll give you a little idea on what some of the contents have in it. It's got photographs in it as well. So it's got like discovering the goddess in history, the Earth Mother, the bright and dark mother, the menstruating goddess, the triple goddess, the moon goddess, blessed among women, Psyche and the goddess, women as the goddess, some goddess recipes, the goddess today, the Grail, and then invocations of goddesses like Demeter, Brigid, Ishtar, Aphrodite, Hecate, Lilith, Epona, Ma'at, Arianod, Aradia, Isis, and then there's goddesses of the world as well. So when you pick each one of these, so let's just pick a really cool one, and I'll just give you one little excerpt so you can see what these books are like. Let me grab some alphabetized stuff here. It's just really great for all right, so here we go, right here. Let's look at Aradia. So it says it talks you a little bit about her background, where she comes from. I'm here. Actually, I'm not on Aradia. Let's look at Hera. So Hera is the consort of Zeus, queen of the Olympians, the daughter of Cronus and Rhea. She's part of the patriarchal takeover. She became merely the ideal wife, patroness of marriage and maternity. Her Roman equivalent would be Juno. Far more powerful and significant in certain tarot cards. The 3s are really important to her, gems, the star sapphire. So basically they're going to give you for each goddess, they tell you about their history. They also tell you about the tarot card that connects to them. They also tell you about the herb that connects to them, the stone and the oil, and basically some of their magical weapons and how to work with them. And there is hundreds of them in the listing, and this is just the goddesses. So obviously the counterpart is the witch's god, and it's the same, but for the male gender deities. And it's never failed me. You can always find out great information about deities that you're not sure about. I actually use this book a lot when I'm creating specific recipes, and I want to find out what's a good herb for Isis, and it will give you that listing. So that's what I would definitely suggest, that The Witch's God and The Witch's Goddess, both by Janet and Stuart Farrar.
Is there an index in the back so that you could look up like what you would want a goddess for? Like if you wanted like a goddess for psychic ability or something like that, is there anything like that in there where you could cross-reference?
I see what you're saying. It looks like Not definitely just that. They're all just listed individually. I see what you're saying. Scott Cunningham does things like that, but DeForest didn't do that in this book.
Got it.
But there's some really great prayers. There's great rituals in it as well. Great world rituals and clothing that you can wear. Even there's recipes in here for making food to the deities that you want to work with. Times of the year, your Sabbats, your Esbats can all be found in here. They have a great section on Hecate, as you can see the crossroads. But yeah, I love the book. It's definitely a great one. What about you?
I mean, honestly, I usually don't work too closely with deities. I think the closest thing I ever got was I got a Greek mythology tarot deck when I was pretty young, and it came with a book that sort of went over all of like the Greek mythological gods and goddesses. Other than that, my interest comes in really random ways. Like I had a dream about I'm totally blanking on it right now, but I had a dream about it, like a specific god. So then I like researched that god. It was Horus. And so like I kind of bounce around with my interests, and I just sort of like use the glory of the internet. But the Greek mythology tarot was also great because it's just I just recommend it. We already have 2 questions coming in.
Can you talk about uncrossing work? I recently did a major uncrossing spell on myself, and once it was completed, everything changed for the better. Everything shifted. The uncrossing was powerful, and I wanted to hear what you guys had to say about uncrossing spell work. How they work, and what are your best or favorite uncrossing rituals? So what do you got? I might always answer first. So
no, I answered what you did answer first last time. I mean, so for me, I haven't really done things that I labeled as an uncrossing spell. For me, when I think of an uncrossing spell, I'm trying to remove like obstacles that are in my way for this specific thing. But I honestly, I like a good road opener spell, and I don't just do like mercurial road opener spells. Like I know that like traditionally road opener is done with Mercury, but like I've done Mars road opener spells where I just felt like I needed like actual a different sort of movement. But so what I do is, depending on where I feel like there's a block, I will, I will dress a candle based off the color of that planet, or even a chakra. I bounce around. Sometimes they're earth chakras, sometimes they're planets. It just depends on what I'm feeling connected to in that moment. But my big thing is I will rub cinnamon, like actual cinnamon powder, and maybe like coconut oil on the candle. And I just think about the cinnamon as like little sticks of dynamite that are, kind of like going after whatever the obstacle is, seen or unseen.
So that's like a blockbuster.
That's what you call it?
Yeah, blockbuster is more explosive, more aggressive, more martial. It's like when you're just like it's doing exactly what you said. You're exploding it to then force the move.
Mm-hmm.
The road opener is a little bit more. I think road opener is a little bit more
clarity.
Clear in the mind work, where Mars is just straight up boom, pushing it out of the way.
Exactly, and it's depending on where I feel like the block is happening.
Yeah, but uncrossing for me is, it's definitely a Saturnian movement, to open up that space, to uncross. I'd go through Saturn, definitely. I don't, people don't ask for them as often as you think. But I mean, any uncrossing work, I like using symbolic things in my spell work. So, even like recently I did an uncrossing for a client, which is one of the few times I've done it. And there was just a person in their professional world that was was not allowing them to move forward with what they're trying to do in their company. And so I literally, created a fetish or an object of the person and put tethers on them. And then literally, at the start of it, I had the tether going over the line of the person that the subject that I'm doing the work for. And then I would pick that up, and through the ritual, I would move it out of the way to make symbolic gesture of the actual happening of these, the uncrossing of the situation. So, whenever I use words like that, I or use them in my work, I try to emulate the action of that happening to get the psyche to react. That to me is like super important to do. That's definitely where I'd go with it.
What if someone had like they were having a hard time finding happiness and they wanted like a love uncrossing? Like, would you still use Saturn?
So love uncrossing is a little different. I would definitely go into Venus with that. Love uncrossing is a different energy. Uncrossing is usually, this is where you start working with all these names, which is a really good topic of discussion, because we're getting all these names for like these spells that people get. A lot of them are getting them from books, but a lot of the books that we're reading are very hoodoo based or conjure based. And a lot of the oils that people recognize when they say like uncrossing oil or do as I say oil or love uncrossing oil. So these are all, they pretty much came through Anna Riva was one of the first big components of that. And, they had an oil for everything. And like, that oil on doing this, but when you bring it back down, to me, it all goes back to the planetary magic that I'm doing. But I definitely, if someone's trying to uncross themselves to bring in love, that's agape. That is the love of spirit, the love of the higher aspect of self, the Godhead. And that is very much bringing down the light of Keter into oneself. And I would definitely go into that space and use Venus energy, or more specifically, it would be Netzach energy, not so much of Venus. I mean Venus. See, the problem with using the word Venus is so many people think of Venus, that she's automatically associated to love. And love always, it's like people live very narrow in their visions of things. You think of Venus, you think of love. You think of love, you think of romance. You think of romance, you think of pink hearts. You think of, you know what I mean? And Venus really is not so much the deity, but the planet and what that planet does. It's the planet of attracting things, but at the same time, if I'm doing a love uncrossing, that's the pure love of spirit or Godhead or God self, whichever you want to call it, and that's bringing that back in. So I would definitely go Venusian with that.
Yeah.
But uncrossing in a situation with an object, something in the path, something that needs to be moved out of the way, that I would deaden it with Saturn. I would definitely go into Saturn and dilute it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I start with it all.
I forgot. I was almost gonna say Pluto, but then I remembered you don't work with outer planets.
I
would use Pluto, but I work with outer planets. So
I don't. I was trained not to do that because it's an error in time. Yeah, of course. Any magician's going to do that. It's an error in time. And that's,
not any magician. Hello, I'm a magician who uses Pluto. And
no, I'm talking about a ceremonial magician in Golden Dawn structure.
Okay, yeah.
It's.
I love me some Pluto.
When it was created, that system was created. It was created because, first off, it's a dated system, but it's dated for a reason. This goes back to tradition. And this is also goes back to where I have a problem with modern people, modern things. It was set in structure through magic and causing change with will by using Ptolemaic scale for it to be a certain way. And I don't believe, utilizing new components. I believe in the old ways. I don't believe in the adaptation of new. I see that Pluto and the other planets, or whatever they're called this month, they're valid, but they're too far out.
Yeah, okay, so one of the reasons why I'm really comfortable working with Pluto is because I know in my astrology chart, my sun and Pluto are conjunct, so they're within 1 degree of each other. So I feel almost in my identity a connection to Pluto. But I'm also, when I'm working magic, I'm always checking the chart. I'm always checking about what's going on astrologically. And so if I'm wanting to do, like, because for me, Pluto is like, it's either destruction or it's either about destruction or rebirth. It's one of the two, death or rebirth, or even if I want to like do mediumship, looking at Pluto. So I will kind of see, a closer planet aspecting Pluto. I'll see when that's lining up. So when like the energy of the moon is bouncing off Pluto, or when the moon is in Scorpio, because Scorpio is ruled, co-ruled by Pluto and Mars, like that's when I'll pull the Plutonian energy through. I agree with you that it's too far out, except for when it's an aspect to a closer planet, and that's when I start to
manipulate it. Yeah, like I just through my background, that's why I stay with what I know. That's just where it goes for me.
Yeah, I think they're too far out to cause anything unless they're an aspect, and that's when like just the way that we measure things is a little bit different.
But what was the other question?
When you get a chance, could you discuss the difference between banishings and exorcisms?
Well, an exorcism is usually a specific rite that's done for a very grievous reason. You just don't exorcise a room because you've had a shitty night in it. You know what I mean? Exorcisms are just that. Usually exorcisms are done when you're dealing with specific entities of serious malefic terror.
Or when the banishing doesn't work.
Huh?
Or when the banishing doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, but like when I banish something, I use banishings a lot more often than I would use an exorcism.
Same.
I mean, I've done one real exorcism in my years.
Right.
And that is really a hardcore thing to do. And usually when you're doing it, you're not exercising. It's not like the movies where you're exercising the doll to get the demon out so your child can play with it. It's not. When you're exercising probably usually someone. And in exercising really it's a term that's used by, in Christianity. It's a Christian term.
And it's almost like possession. Like it's almost when there's a possession, right?
Yeah, when there's something specifically really in there that's brutal, like what I was dealing with upstairs. And that night I did it with the girl. I didn't even want to call it an exorcism because, first of all, I'm not an exorcist. I'm a witch. I don't utilize that term. It's not. That's just not in my scope of work.
Yeah.
I can clear people out, but exorcism is just a term that you really, you shouldn't play with. And I believe Jason Miller, my present instructor, actually talks about that a lot and the validity of it in the Protection and Reversal Magic book. He talks about, it's something that you really don't, you shouldn't tread lightly on. And it's almost never really heard of being used in the real sense. It's just like the term that people use once in a while. But see, people like words and they want to use words that sound important so they can sound important. But another one that pops up often is soul retrieval. Soul retrieval is, you really have to have someone 150% qualified to be a soul retrievalist. I do not fit that bill. I'm not near that realm to do that for someone. Soul retrieval is a very drastic, very serious thing, as is an exorcism. You know, you're stepping into realms that are really for clergy. And
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, for me, exorcism, it's really like I think anyone can do an exorcism. Not anyone, but you know, it's like you said, you know, everything that you said, yes. Have the skill, have the knowledge. But to me, exorcism has always been like the rite of exorcism, the book with all the prayers that the church gives, and someone who's an exorcist is a Catholic priest who has that job for the church specifically, is an exorcist and travels around to sort of perform them. I think that you can sort of like, if you wanted to add a lighter touch to the word, and I mean, like, so I have a friend, Alexis, who's like my fucking weird bitch. Like, we go weird. We have like when we're together, when we're in the same town, we have personal exorcism nights where we like do crazy war paint makeup and we fucking dance around in crazy circles and act like insane lunatic banshees, and we exercise our personal demons, and we just like roll on the floor and hiss and laugh and act like real legit lunatics. But we just let whatever we feel like we are holding on to internally, we really solve our inhibitions, and we let whatever we don't want to be holding on to, like, to be released.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, but yeah, it definitely is, though. It's definitely not something that should be messed with lightly. And I don't use that term that often.
Yeah, and when we say it, like, we're not like, you know, doing 360, you know, degree.
Yeah, I mean, that night upstairs, I mean, I can do really heavy cleanings on people. When Scarlett and I do work on people together, it's usually pretty intense, but we don't use that word ever. Mm-hmm. It's just not. But there is heavy cleanings that we do. I mean, that's why when you go up to the temple, it still smells like garlic. You know, because yeah, I mean, it really does. It's really smelly up there of that. But I'm always doing really hardcore stuff up there. Mm-hmm. You know, but yeah. So what is our topic for tonight? What are we talking about?
We have one more question that was sent in.
Oh, cool. I'm all about questions.
So this one's kind of funny, I think, in a way. It says, so going back to last week's episode, I was just curious about dick magic, which of course was like Scott fucking with us, you know, but I do think you can use your dick for magic. What do you think about?
I retired my dick 5 years ago.
So, I mean, I know that some people will basically like light a candle with an intention and then like.
Are you asking about how to use dick? Like what I've got over there?
Oh, maybe.
Hang on. Oh, Lordy.
So I'm just here filling the space because Sal, no way. And this is my way of being entertaining by doing this. Great. And he's making cocks more great.
Yeah. Biggest, dickus, and little dicks. Where's the little dick? Can you see it? That's
great. I was just gonna show you dicks.
Showing all the dicks. It's like a bag of dicks. So yeah, you can totally use. I use them for dominance rituals, specifically, or invocation or control rituals. Obviously, you're seeing them in the two colors, the black and the red. You're always going to see things like this. When you see black and red in color in candles, you know they're for one or the other. They're either for some type of binding or controlling, or some type of banishing or removal. You know, red, black, Mars, Saturn. But I use them a lot if I'm trying to, for my clients, if they want control over a specific guy. in their life. Also, we don't have any more in right now, but we also have the yoni, which is the nice name of the vagina. And you can do the same thing with that on females. But this is where a lot of domination oil comes in, a lot of controlling oil comes in. I also, the smaller ones, here, I'll open this one up so you can see it better. The smaller ones are actually pretty cool. A little more, there you go. Wow, there's the stuff. They're perfect on chins. They're amazing. But Renee. But so really what we do with these is, I take these and I will attach them to
Your chin.
male figure candles. And what I'll do is a lot of times when I'm doing domination rituals for women, I will take the male wax figure and adhere it on there, either by melting wax and sticking it to it, or running a skewer through it or something to hold it in place. And then very often I've got the cock bound, and usually it's got like a Prince Albert, it's got a hole running through the head of the cock, and I run a line through that and then over into the female wax figure. It'll go into where her hand would be. And then I'll slowly use that, and wrap it so the cord wraps it around tighter and tighter and tighter until the cock is right to her. And then I light them and melt them down. So that's real, that's how they're used in magic. It's a form of control or dominance.
I don't think that's the only way they're used, though. I did an interview for my other podcast for the Glittercast. I interviewed Michelle T, who wrote Modern Tarot. She's fucking awesome. But she was telling me this story about how she knew an escort who would like light dick candles to attract basically like income, to attract.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
Yeah.
Not these colors for sure. But yeah, definitely you're going to bring in, you're lighting in your blue or your green and stuff like that, bring in money for sure. Any sex worker can use that for a myriad. These are not the only reasons, but this is usually the large, no pun intended, the main reason why they're sold is they're usually sold for some type of control factor, or dominance factor.
Well, I think you could also probably use it like to liven up your sex life, to liven up passion. If you had someone that
you don't want to ever insert this.
No. What are you talking about?
You said to liven up your sex life with it. I'm like, how are you going to do that?
No.
They sell real ones. They sell ones for that. You don't use that for
this. They sell real ones that go on your chin too.
They do, and they sit really well. Ask Scott.
Oh my God. All right, we're gonna move on. We have another question.
Right. What's the next question?
We've got questions come. Ooh, it just bit me a little bit.
I love questions more than topics.
I do too. So we have a few coming.
Right.
Chris Hall asks, Sal, in regard to altar kit, may I ask what's in the temple blend?
Oh, the temple blend, I'm not going to give you the recipe, even though I love you lots, Chris. But it's a specific high vibration blend that I created, not much different from the recipe that we used in the Golden Dawn for a high vibratory ritual. So whenever we do any like LBRPs, BRHs, any of the ceremonial magic rituals, that's what's in it. And it's just a cleanse. It's got both cleansing and protection and action qualities within it. But
nice.
So I answered that without giving you the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I love you, and I love having you here.
And you love what?
I love that he comes. He comes every week from Britain.
Oh, nice. Okay, so Katie asked, can you recommend the best method of divination for telling whether or not it will be dangerous to continue living in the US for the next couple of years? I would
just say, yes, it's going to be too dangerous. My mom told me to get the fuck out of here. She's like, you should leave.
Can I finish?
Yeah, my mom's divination.
I have been noticing that the country is becoming more and more divided, and I have been very much concerned about there being violence for a long time, even before the coup happened last week. I mean, I'm worried about more violence too, especially like the astrology on like the 18th and or like around the 20th is not great.
And neither is the news.
Yeah.
The news is telling you that, I mean, not to interject, but I'm going to interject here, that Hopi told me yesterday that there is major warnings at every Capitol building in the 50 states.
Yeah, and not just that, my dad works for this, he works for the state in Arizona, not even in the Capitol buildings, but he, as a government worker, he got an email saying like, if you work at any, he's working remotely, but he got an email saying if you work at any of the downtown campuses, don't come to work remotely until like, you know, we tell you, pretty much. Most people are working remotely anyway, because it's like,
yeah,
COVID, and he is, but he just was on the roster and got that email. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. I hate using divination for anything that's going to scare me, you know, but I do look at astrology, and I do get worried. But I also think that's a really, really personal decision that you have to make for yourself. And it also comes down to whether or not you're able to make a reasonable plan. If you have, you know, a place that you know you can go to in Canada, you know, fine.
I do.
Yeah, if you can make a plan that works, that makes sense for you, that doesn't, you know, completely blow up your life. I am never the one who wants to let fear rule my decisions. So, you know, I would never like, okay, I'm going to go to Canada with absolutely no plan because I'm freaked out about what's going to happen. That's just not, you know, usually where I'm coming from. But if I, you know, if there's a concern and I know that I can maintain a decent lifestyle and do something that's going to make me feel less afraid or feel, you know, better, I would. I don't know how easy it's going to be to get into Canada because, you know, it's like the day that Trump was elected, the immigration website like crashed or something like that because so many people were trying to like figure out how to get a visa. By the way, if you are a self-employed person, if you can create a job for yourself, you can get a visa so that you can move to Canada. I found that out, which is nice for me because I'm a tarot reader and I do use my own money.
And my wife is Canadian, which is good for me. And we're talking about opening a store in Toronto. So that's what we're looking at. But and on my side of that answer, you know, it's like my mom is 95 years old. She's lived a long life and she's had a crazy life. She made it through World War II, the Great Depression, Vietnam, Korea. She says this is the absolute worst she's ever seen in her 100 years of this life. And she told me, she's like, go. She's like, it's not going to end well. She's like, it's coming down. It's going to come down hard soon. And it will. I have no doubt. I mean, I hate to be like oh no, we're going to die thing, but the way to me, it always seems like the beginning of The Walking Dead. Yes. And I'm saying that not in a joking way. And I'm not saying zombies, but the zombies are just a metaphor for what's going on. And we're in a bad space.
I also feel like if zombies came, who would be surprised at this point? Like, would you really be surprised? Would just make sense at this point if they came.
I mean, I'm not a conspiracy person. I don't buy into that. I think we're all going to be safe. I mean, do I think anything's going to physically happen to each of us? No, I don't. I mean, America really, in the end, I'm hoping that America will be what America really is.
Yeah.
An amazing place. And in the end, we'll be okay. We're definitely going to see hard times. And yeah, if you have a chance to get away, get away. But like Renee said, don't live in fear.
Yeah.
Just live your life safely and with respect to others, you know?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, what I worry about more than anything is like not the immediate. I worry more about like 20 years, 30 years, and like how I'm going to be in a house that's self-sustaining, like how I want my own access to water and my own electricity, and I want to grow my
Walking Dead. That's what I'm talking about.
I want
This is what I'm talking about.
sustainability.
Yeah.
I feel like sustainability, like being able
Yeah.
to create your own sustainability and protect, like I'm looking at secluded places for, 10 to 20 years from now, just
Mhm.
because
I mean, our D-Day is like, I told my wife that, look, I'm 56 years old. By 61, I want to be living in Crete, looking at the Aegean every morning.
Yeah.
That's my goal. That's where I'm going. I'm out. That's my out. That's my end game.
Yeah.
But you guys are a lot younger than me, and it's hard. It's a hard world right now. It's hard seeing kids come up in this world right now.
Yeah, I just worry about, the resources, and people are,
Mhm.
the population isn't slowing down. It's just exploding and getting bigger and getting more out of control. And there are, crop failures that are happening.
It's microcosmic, but it's all coming down to that point of explosion. But let's talk on to some cheerier things, please. This is kind of depressing, and we don't want to have a depressing show.
Don't want to have a depressing show. That's true. So that's it for questions so far as of this moment. But what we were talking about discussing, which I can't believe it's already like 7:45 almost. Like this is just like totally blown by. But
there's another one.
Okay.
Hey, Danielle, I miss you. I hope you're doing good there. And there's another one too. Sal knows I live for his incense. Tomas. Danielle asks, are there any types of spells that I can do? Oh, yes, there is. I love wasp nests. I found one when I was hiking and have it on my altar. Can it be used for anything magically? Without giving away too much, Danielle, that is one of the main components of my hot foot powder. So you could really make some really cool hot foot out of that. I powder it down and put it in a lot of my products. Anything that, you got to think about the larvae that's in there and in the cocoon state. And, it's just, they're wasps. You got to get away from them, so I would definitely powder it down and start looking at good hot foot recipes. For sure. And if you still have it, you can send it to me because I use them all the time.
Mm-hmm. I know. I found a bunch of
them. You gave me some.
I gave you some. Yeah,
you gave me.
I gave you some too. I also like using them, and I have them in I put them in protection jars sometime too, as well.
Big Mama Rudy asks, new spiritual ideals feel like a lot of them are taken from different cultures and meshed together without any foundational knowledge. Sal, can you recommend any books for starting books for solitary practitioners? God, yeah. I mean, I endless books, and I'm sure Renee could too, for sure. I'm very much about, that. I mean, things are borrowed from other cultures. And, this is where my theories on conjure and hoodoo are. Conjure and hoodoo, is just another form of witchcraft to me. And it's very much it's a melting pot of different cultures in our country, in America. Conjure and hoodoo is the American witchcraft because it's taken from, the cultures that are all around us, from Latino American culture to the Appalachian cultures, to the American Indian cultures, to African American culture, to Santeria again, and the Voodoo systems, Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
This is conjure. This is our definitely what our magic actually is, I believe. And there's some really good books out there, but what I try to tell people to do is, try to go back as far as you can to the beginning. Read things like the PGM, the Greek papyri, which is now we're getting, that the stuff they have in colleges, not so much Llewellyn books, but, studies on the Greek papyri are really important. Read about the diffixiones or the incantations of the spell work of ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, ancient cultures.
Do you think that information is digestible, and that it's good for starting?
When you're really starting fresh, I think if a person has a knack for reading something and really can take in things, then read it. Sarita de Est, in her book, The Liminal Hecate, it's more Hecate based, but, she talks about the PGM a lot because there's a lot of really important information on spellcraft, hexcraft. But another thing that you should really look at, if you really want to get down to the fundamentals and the basics, you cannot go wrong with Scott Cunningham.
That's what I was
Scott Cunningham is great.
Yeah.
And it's great because he teaches you Ptolemaic structure and he teaches you color and planetary scale. But when you start to ask yourselves, where is that coming from? That's when you look at Ptolemy and you look at the Chaldean oracles. This is where you find your information out.
So my first book was a Scott Cunningham book. It was Wicca, a guide for the solitary practitioner.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
Still a great book. I sold Earth, Air, Fire, Water today, twice.
I love Scott Cunningham so much. Yeah.
I met him. He was an amazing man.
Oh, I love him.
That was one of the, he did a forum class. I think he did it on olfactory.
Nice.
The olfactory senses, and it was really cool. But yeah, I definitely would say, that sounded like a really vague answer to you, but when you start with, let's go back over to the bookshelf, and I will plug the great late Scott Cunningham.
Yes.
Why do I love him so much? Because first off, all his books are great, but my favorite, and they are basically one's a compendium of the other without it officially being so.
They're upside down. They're upside down.
Sorry, thank you. Is Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs and the complete book of incenses, oils, and brews. This teaches you how to mix. Mm-hmm. This teaches you basic recipe structure. This book is nothing but herbs, and this is the single most important one, I believe, because you got almost all the Western used herbs in witchcraft. So remember, we're not working so much in the Voodoo systems here. We're working more in the European witchcraft perspective. But when you look at this book, they're all alphabetized herbs.
The index in the back too.
Yeah, well, I'll get to that. But definitely, first off, let's look at Comfrey. It's going to tell you the folk name. It's going to tell you the gender of the plant. It's going to tell you the planet that rules it. It's going to tell you the element that rules it. It's going to tell you the powers that it is used and the magical uses as well. And as Renee was saying, when you get to the back of the book, he's got amazing, he's got all the elemental rulers, all the herbs listed for each element, all the herbs listed for each planet, all the herbs listed for masculine energy, all the herbs listed for feminine energy, all the herbs, again, listed for specific reasons like health, maintain, like immortality, infertility. I mean, they're all alphabetically listed.
It's a great book.
Great book.
I always tell my students to get it.
And the other one.
That's the one I saved from. Yeah, that encyclopedia is what I tell my students to get.
Yeah, that's always really good. And this is really good because what makes this almost better than that book is he does something that I think is genius that nobody really has done since. And at the very end of the book of Incenses, Oils, and Brews, he's got that. So if you don't have, let's look through here. If you don't have frankincense, you look up frankincense and you can use copal or pine resin. If you don't have rose, you can use yarrow. If you don't have tobacco, you can use bay. If you don't have cypress, juniper berry, and pine needle. So he gives you other things that you can get around and use in place of. That makes this book super important. So do yourself a favor, get the set, and they will pay off immediately. And once you learn that, now start to say, well, Scott, that's great that you've told me that these herbs are doing this, but why is it that prosperity, to get prosperity, you use alfalfa? Who says that? Why couldn't it have been bittersweet or peony? So Scott doesn't explain that either, but this is where you start getting into in Western systems. This is why I always say that the foundation of witchcraft as we know it is ceremonial magic, because when you look for that, you're going to find out that those are all summed up through planetary magic, which is all connected through the tree of life and Kabbalah and the colors of the four worlds and the planetary correlatives to each one of the Sephiroth on the tree of life. This is where that gets that information from. Prior to that, the best book that you could have gotten, in the last 30 years before, 40 years before this book, was Aleister Crowley's 777. That book is the original compendium of all things magical. The beauty of 777 is every page is listed like 1 through 50 down the side of the page. And if you look at number 4 on page 3, you can trace number 4 horizontally to page 50. And everything that's on that line through all those pages correlate to that number. So now you know this is what stone goes with this planet, goes with this oil, with this herb, magical weaponry, deities, all the different deities, different pantheons, the tree of life. It works with gematria. It works through Goetic work, and it works into Solomonic work. That compendium book is amazing. The only problem with Crowley's version was it's so densely written and dry, it gives you a headache when you open it. I personally think that Crowley probably put an incantation on it to give people a headache when they try to read it, because that's the kind of fucker he was.
Yeah.
And Jim Eschliman is a great modern occultist who ran an OTO order here in Los Angeles. He's in the up and up in that realm, and he wrote a great modern version. And I talk about this all the time, but I'm going to bring it out again. And that's why that's 776.5. So he's made it so you can open it up
and not have a headache.
So he's made it much more legible to read, but the numbers are all still right there when you see on the side. Oh shit, I'm causing a fire in my store. That's where all that comes from. So these books are the books that you want to start getting your information, and once you get that information, the road is open to you. But
I think it also will depend too on what sort of system you want to work with as well. Because if you're interested in like Egyptian magic, I'm not sure that would be exactly the same thing either, though.
But Egyptian magic in ceremonial magic is like one of the cousins. So Egyptian and Greco-Egyptian and Greek and Roman, they fall together. And in 777, that is the beauty of it, because if you're studying the Egyptian pantheon, or any other pantheon, actually. Let me just give you a little idea on what's in this book as far as that goes. It really teaches you how to work with all the different. Oh, this is it right here. So in 777 and 6.5, you've got the Christian deities and apostles. you've got Santeria, you've got the Voodoo, you've got Celtic deities, Assyrio-Babylonian deities, Scandinavian, Hindu, Roman, Greek, Thelemic, practical Egyptian deities, and then practical attribution to Egyptian deities as well. So there's all those different pantheons that you can work with and figure it out. For sure, you know, it's like the things will change a little bit though, because when you start getting into like the herbs of Africa, they're going to be a little different than getting herbs in the shop. Like that's one of the things where we lack in the shop is we don't have a lot of the continent of Africa for African work, or even Latino culture. We don't have a lot of the herbs that they use. So, and while I'm on that topic, I would like to tell you guys also, and this will help each and every one of you out. When you're looking and you're trying to do work and you get words that will pop up like master of the wood herb, and you go in and you ask your occultist, oh, I need master of the wood. If they don't know how to correlate, they'll probably tell you they don't have it. But I can tell you right now that master of the wood is just woodruff. It's folk names. Mm-hmm. And people in conjure and people in the hoodoo communities are using words, and Latino communities are using words for things that we commonly have, but it's just not, you know, like black cohosh is snake root. Mm-hmm. 5-finger grass is cinquefoil. You know, these are these little side names that people get caught up on. So it's really not the folk name that you want. You really want to know the genius. You want to know the Latin, and then you'll find out the other names. Mm-hmm. So something to think about.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so it's almost 8 o'clock now, and we did have a topic to discuss, but I'm wondering if you think we should go over it briefly, or how are you feeling?
I don't know. We can save it for next time, but like, is there any other questions that we have? Is that it?
Last chance for questions, guys. We'll give you a few seconds.
We got 3 more minutes. So I hope that answered you, Rudy. Suarez asks, I've always wondered how you can use Florida water. What are the purposes of this? Florida water, I make it myself.
It's the best Florida water I've ever smelled, by the way.
Thank you.
I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it was a stumble across. I made it because I didn't want to sell the chemical-y stuff that they sell in stores. Mm-hmm. And it's probably the best thing I've ever made.
It's so good.
Yeah, thank you. Florida water is really good for cleansing yourself and your home. Very good.
So
great cleanser.
Yeah, so you could use it in a floor wash. I put a little bit in almost like a spray bottle like this, and I use it as an aura cleanser as well. Like especially between readings, if I want to clean off the energy that I just communed with, I'll do like a Florida water spray sometimes. But I mostly use it for that in floor washes. I don't really use it for much more than that.
Yeah, those are the two that I use it for.
Yeah, I make my own out of essential oil when I'm not using yours, like diluted essential oil. And when I make mine, one of my favorite parts about making it is I was lucky enough when we were in France to go to a place where the Nord, which is a river in south of France, the Nord River, and I think there was two or three other rivers that met there. There was a cross point of rivers that conjuncted in south of France, in Occitania. And during Celtic rule of ancient or pre-France, Burgundy, the Romans and the Celts would go to this one area that they deemed as magical, that you could be healed by the water there. And there's a space, because the way the water table works
I forget the actual mathematics of how it works, but the water rises and falls with the rivers at the different times. And when the water drops really low, you can go into this cave, but then the water comes back up and you don't get out again until the water drops back down again. So this place also became very spiritual for the Celts, the Picts, and the Romans. And so they would take their dead or their dying or their sick or hurt people into this water and would miraculously heal them. So when I was there, I bottled some of that water up and brought it back to the country, to America. And actually, I have to show this to you guys. It's mind blowing that this happens. I still haven't figured out the science behind it yet. But so we went to France in June 2019. We were there for summer solstice. We went to this place and we got the water out of the ground and I brought it home and I put it in the bottle that I'm about to show you. And I have done this with other waters. I know I'm walking around. Sorry, I know we're coming to the end of a show, but I need you to see all this. Oh my God, I'm right up in the store.
Oh,
There it is. So this is creek water. Okay. See, look at the base of that. Do you see that in there?
Yeah, there's like a sediment.
See that sediment?
Yeah.
This was done in 2020. This is France. It is crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing floating in this water. Nothing.
Yeah.
It is as clear as you could get water.
It's probably just pure.
It's so pure that nothing grows in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so I take albeit it's small, I take not even a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon of it, and I put that in my Florida water every time. So this is in the mix that people buy, and
nice.
It's amazing. It's such an amazing, beautiful thing. So Florida water as a whole is an amazing product. Whether you get it from me or not, it doesn't matter really. Yeah. I mean, I make really good Florida water, but it is great to use for, putting it. I always tell people, one of the places you want to put Florida water is at the base of the occipital bone. So if you follow your finger down the back of your head, you'll feel your skull tuck in right before it hits the nape of your neck. That's the occipital. And this is psychic development is there. And it's also where the soul escapes. And a lot of people don't know that. But it's whenever you use Florida water, you put a little bit right there, especially before any ritual. And if you don't have Florida water and you're doing ritual, put something else there, any type of blessed oil that you have, or moon water, but that spot is really important. And not many people know about that, surprisingly, but it is also really funny. And this is for you movie buffs out there, and I'll share this, and then I will step back and we can end this, or Renee, you can talk about it too. But I don't know how many of you guys have watched, I know it's kind of dated at this point, but Pulp Fiction. So Pulp Fiction, if we go back and we think about that movie, we meet Marcellus Wallace. He hires two hitmen or goons, which are John Travolta and Samuel Jackson, to retrieve the package. And when Ving Rhames' character is sitting there telling them to get this package, what you see is the back of his head. And the back of his head is a big ominous Band-Aid over his occipital. So now you go to the diner scene where John Travolta and Samuel Jackson meet Honey Bunny and Tim Roth. and tells him, you don't get what's in this briefcase. You can take my bad motherfucker wallet. And he's like, open it up or I'll shoot you in the face. And so Samuel opens it up. What happens when he opens it? It glows gold. It's so brilliant that they can't look at it. And he's like, is that what I think it is? He's like, yeah. And he closes it down. Basically, they were buying back his soul. Mm-hmm. That was the story. That was the hidden story of Pulp Fiction. That's what Tarantino was putting in the liner notes of the movie. Was basically they're getting his soul back. That's why it was so important. And that's why the Band-Aid's there. So always remember that whenever you have Florida water or you're doing Ritual, put something on the back. Mm-hmm. But and knowing is half the battle.
Knowing is half the battle. We have one last question for the evening, and this one is for me. Thomas says, I just pulled the Ace of Discs on the Thoth deck. Thoth or Thoth? I think it's Thoth. Thoth, yeah. Any significance to you? Yeah, I mean, whenever you see an ace, it's sort of like new beginnings. It could also be a contract. The discs is going to be sort of like the pentacles or the coin in other tarot decks, and this is going to be money or the material realms. So I would say, new beginnings that have to do with money, or even where you live, or if it has to do with your health, then it's sort of like that message, like, okay, today's the day you start making those changes. A lot of the times so when we look at one tarot card, it's really hard to build a story off of that. That's why tarot readers do spreads, because you have one card and then it's like about how it's talking to the other cards. So I think, at minimum, I like to pull at least 3 cards, but I usually have like 10 to 20 cards going per spread. But just in general, the Ace of Discs is going to be new beginnings, contracts, potentially a new job, a new place to live, things like that. But aces are usually, are almost always going to be beginnings. So I think with that, we're pretty much there, right?
I like that we had all questions tonight and no topic. I just like talking to everybody.
I like it too, honestly, and I don't know, it takes some of the pressure off of like hoping we can come up with a topic and it's something other people want to hear or talk about. So, please, even if you have something that you're curious about in the middle of the week, send it to us in advance. You can send your questions to our Instagram at Betwixt the Shadows, or our Gmail, betwixtheshadows@gmail.com. But I love the questions so much. It's so much. It's just so nice to be able to interact and know that we're, being very direct in what you guys want to learn and hear about. So it's pretty good.
Which I forgot to say, if you go there, there's nothing there, but I wanted to let you guys know that I'm trying to catch up with the 21st century, and I started my own Instagram. So if you could friend me, that'd be rad. I'm going to start putting up all things like witchcraft. And when I say witchcraft, more my version of what witchcraft is. But my, is it called a handle?
Yep.
My handle is Salvatore_modern_witch at Instagram. So SALVATORE. And please, friend me. And I'm going to start updating it. It's going to be connected to Betwixt the Shadows as well, and the Crooked Path, of course.
Yeah.
But I think we're winding down.
Yeah.
It was a good show tonight. I love the questions. Just like Renee said, you guys are awesome. Thank you for being here and letting us do what we do every week and supporting us.
Yeah, please subscribe, write reviews if you're listening on iTunes, or even, one of the main places that reviews are important for content like this is through iTunes. So even if you do watch the live stream, if you have an iPhone, and you can leave us like a nice written review or a good review on iTunes, that helps us, because we just want to, make it so that other people can find us and more questions can come through. And we really want to build not just an audience, but a community. We want to start having you guys on. We have a Facebook group. We'll try to get more active on there, where you guys can be talking to each other as well. So we really want to build this up into something where, the conversation isn't just what's happening right now here, but the conversation can bleed over into social media, and we can just be a part of each other's lives every day of the week, and not just me and Sal on Wednesdays. So we need your help.
That's really well said.
Build the community, build it up.
That's really well said. We need to do that. And you know, I'm old generation. I'm trying really hard to be modern with this stuff. And but please, if you could just take the time and do that for us, that'd be really great. Like, help us get the word out there.
Yeah.
Because we are going to have guests. I think we're going to bring in Ammo soon. Ammo will be a great guest, and we might be able to do that very soon. But thank you guys for your continued support, and our listeners here in the country and in Britain. We all know who that is. Let your friends know too. And thank you guys so much. And I will see you guys next week. Renee, much love to you. Thank you for co-hosting with me.
Yeah.
And we are Betwixt the Shadows, and we are out of here.